Welcome back to the Dana Grant Show, where we are centered on not only entrepreneurship, but humanity. And I have someone in the house today that I've been following for a while. Love his energy, love his synergy. We've had a conversation prior to us hopping on. I should have taped because it was brilliant already. And I think he's going to illuminate so much. But welcome to the show, Brian. He said, Brian, like yogurt. And I'm like, Brian Yogurt. No, Brian Bogert, which I love. I love the name. It's got such a cadence, such a rhythm. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Dana, I'm excited to be here. I feel like we've been fast friends, but long friends at the same time.
Yeah.
Dana Grant rolls right off the tongue. So, it's a little easier than Brian Bogert, but it definitely has prominence. I'm
Bogert
looking
yogurt.
forward to
Yeah.
today. Yeah.
Oh, me too. I mean, there's a frequency and an energy and an understanding. And I love the way you show up raw, honest. And that's exactly what I wanted from this conversation because I think the audience is really going to learn a lot from just how you show up in the world. And like I said, just pull up a chair, everybody, and listen in because you're going to want to lean into this because I think you have a lot of wisdom that is needed in the world we live in today. And I was thinking your podcast, Flipping the Lid, I thought exactly what's needed. Exactly what's needed. So tell me a little bit. I never do this, but I want to hear a little bit about you. Tell the people a little bit about you before we get started, before I dive in.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a husband and father first, and it's the only thing binary in my world. I have been saying that for 20 years, yet
Mm,
it is even more relevant today because my words, actions, and behaviors were not always congruent. But they're as
mm,
congruent as they can be today based on whatever I'm conscious to. And it is literally the only thing that if anything else is taking away from, if those three people in my life are not good, everything else immediately gets shut down. Who am I? Like I said, I'm a husband and father first, but I'm deeply grounded in humanity.
yeah.
I'm a very curious person. I, for years, have focused really and believed that I'm only as good as my questions. And there's lots of reasons now that I understand why I feel that way, but it's no different. And I still feel the same way. I've been studying human behavior, human connection, human performance for 25 years. I never believed I was a creative person until 5 years ago, even though I am highly creative in lots of different ways. I'm somebody that learned to receive love, validation, and connection through performance. It led to a lot of years
Mm,
of performing and actually chasing what I believed I wanted, but it was really what the world told me I wanted.
mm,
And I've learned deeply in all the ways that we protect ourselves, we also very quickly disconnect ourselves. And unfortunately, that's through lived experience. We'll unpack, I'm sure, components of this through the course of our conversation today. But the story that I'm most well known for, even though it is just one of the many stories, is that when I was 7 years old, I was run over by a truck and my left arm was torn from my body, was
mm,
reattached, had 24 surgeries, and a whole lot that came from that. I highlight that because, yes, it gets people's attention. Yes, it's somewhat unique. But what I've also learned in my 33 years of telling this story is, yes, it's highly unique. But every time I tell it, the more I realize how each and every one of us, each and every one of you listening, has equally, if not more, unique stories. And so,
yeah.
what becomes really important for all of us is learning to become aware enough, to pause long enough to become aware enough of the lessons we can extract from our own stories so we can become
Mm,
intentional in how we apply those in our lives moving forward. And I believe we all have the ability to do that. We also all have the ability to tap into the collective wisdom of other people's stories, the lessons from them, and shorten our own
yeah.
curve to learning. And that's my hope with what we're going to do today is
Yeah.
to hopefully live and fulfill in what I believe is my reason for existence on this planet at this point in my life, which is to allow my truth to give others permission to live theirs.
Oh, I was just
um,
gonna say, when you said that and showed your arm, it validated and gave me permission again because I want to continue to pull back and say with acceptance with my legs, they are riddled with lack of muscle and 17 forwards of
mhm,
staff, and I'm constantly wanting to hide those and constantly
mhm.
moving forward and moving back. You really just gave me the permission again to say, yeah, I had something similar, and I show up in the world, and what people think I am and
Yep.
what I am is quite different. And there's
Mhm.
always a little bit of push and pull there.
Huge. There's a huge amount of push and pull. And whether it's because of some physical ailment, injury, or even if it's just fabricated in our heads, they feel and we experience them the same way, right?
Exactly.
Whether it and I think what I'm very clear on, and again, we'll unpack different components of this potentially,
Mm.
but one of the things that I say is I'm used to being the only one in every room I walk into, right?
Mm.
And so why do I call attention to that? Because I know what it's like to be overlooked. I know what it's like to be overwhelmed. I know what it's like to be, compressed, shut down, viewed as unworthy, viewed as not capable of things, simply
Right.
because of whatever stories other people were writing for me in their
Yeah.
own narratives,
Yeah.
right? And so what I'm also very aware of is, despite the fact that I am used to being the only one in every room I walk into, I'm also very aware of the privilege I have as a white male in this world to
Mm.
be able to also blend in pretty much any room I want to.
Yeah.
But why do I call attention to that? Because to me, though I'm never going to know what it's like to be a woman, I can't. Not even any possible way. I can ask as many questions as possible. I can be as sympathetic in the things that I recognize. I can see the strong woman I have in my wife. I can be the father of the daughter that I am and learn a lot, but I'm never going to know. I
Yeah.
will never know what it's like to be a person of color. I will never know what it's like to be transgender. I will never know what it's like to be anybody else in their skin, especially in many of the categories, or what I'll call fringe categories, that might be often the only one in every room, depending on where you walk. And
Mm.
so, though I don't know what it's like to be any of those things, what I do
Right.
believe is I can relate to being the only one in every room. And that's something that many people can identify with. And that is where I ground everything, because it's about meeting people where they are. And it's
Yeah.
about utilizing and using not just our stories, not just the areas where we are used to being different, but in particular, the areas that we can
Right.
find connection and similarity to become the same. And it's
Right.
using both of those in tandem with intention that actually
Mhm.
allows forward movement, impact, growth, giving others permission, right?
Yeah.
Or frankly, even letting others borrow our voice, our strength, our direction, or our beliefs while they're finding and developing their own. And
Yeah.
and that's how I choose to live my life, because I can carry the weight. I've had to carry the weight, and my entire life has prepared me to hopefully be a voice of reason, a voice of connection, a voice of love,
Yeah.
to allow anybody who's ever felt like the only one in a room to
Yeah.
realize that they're not.
Oh, I love that. I was looking at my notes and it says with 100 million video views and downloads, that's a lot of people viewing what you have to say. Why do you think they're leaning in? And if they're leaning in and listening, and you can encapsulate just a screenshot of what it is these people that are listening now need to hear in the time that we're living through, what would that be?
You know, I heard the question in two different ways, so I'm going to respond to it in how I heard
Yeah.
it
Yeah, it was
first, and
multi
then I'm
it
going
was
to,
like I was going through a
yeah.
wormhole. It was
No, it's
yeah,
okay.
but
And
I
I
love the way
like
you
like
heard
I like
that.
like multi-part questions, but I actually heard like almost two separate there,
Yeah.
and that's okay. But I want to
Yeah.
make sure I address what you asked. Um, why are people listening? It's interesting because I also have to give credit to all of the incredible partners that I've aligned with in the last 5 years.
Mm.
Because yes, my own channels have produced lots of exposure and lots of views, but it's also the people I've aligned with. I mean, I've been a
Mhm.
guest on over 1,200 shows as an interview
Mhm.
guest in the last 5 years. So I don't even know the total reach. But what does that mean?
Mhm.
People like you, people like David Meltzer, people like Brad Lee, people like
Yeah.
Amberly Lago, people like Darren O'Lean, people like
Yeah.
others who have large platforms of influence, for whatever reason, have decided that I have value to offer to them and their audience. And that's been a big part of getting to that level of views and more. And so I
Right.
have to give credit and acknowledgement to the partnership, because it's not like I just have this amazing algorithmic approach. But
Right.
I think it does boil down to the fact that I am extremely direct. I do speak truth. And I do put words
Yeah.
to situations, feelings, experiences, and thoughts that other people have, that for whatever reason, the way I communicate it makes it accessible to them. But in the
Mhm.
same vein, because I'm that way, people either love me or they hate me.
Yep.
And The
Yeah, I
flip side
loved
to
you
that as well
instantly.
is
I'm like, he speaks my
right.
language. It's what I need. I really need that direct. I don't understand this. Like, well, what do you mean? It's like it just is such a waste of time. And we're in this
Yeah.
time and space in this world where we need directness, we need truth, we need honesty, we need love, we need compassion, we need humanity. We need it. There's no more
Yep.
time to waste. And when I heard you, I'm like, bingo, there he is showing up. And I look at it, you're just Brian, you're just showing up. And,
Thank you.
I love
A-
that.
And so I had to say all that. Why do people listen? I think because they've tuned into me through other people's platforms and channels, and it's allowed
Yeah,
me to grow exposure, presence, and even our own
right.
level of following. But
Yeah,
it is that, and I think we need that more than we ever have. Right? People don't know who
yeah,
to trust in today's world. People, this whole buzzword of authenticity is driving me bonkers because what even is that anymore? With the rise and development of AI and the dilution of so much of humanity and personalization and voice and impact,
right.
I stand out because I'm
Yeah.
unique in the way that I do things. But to the other point of it is as I've stepped into my own clarity and who I am and the reasons that I'm doing what I do, I'm passionate about it. I genuinely give a
Mm,
fuck about what I'm doing and the people that I'm working with.
yeah.
But I've also talked about it in this light. I haven't watched other people's content in almost a decade.
Mm,
I don't listen to other people's podcasts unless it's for a specific purpose. I don't watch other speakers speak unless I'm at an event and I'm trying to absorb them live. Why? Because we absorb and modify and adapt everything we're exposed to without us even realizing it. And
I
if you
we are
watch
so
and follow the
we
same speakers for a
yeah,
period of
we
time, you're
talked
going to
we
pick up.
talked earlier,
Yeah.
not to interrupt you, but I said, "My gosh, it's like if I had a male version of me, this would be it." I mean, but I don't either. I don't listen
Yeah.
either. I don't watch either because I don't want to absorb that energy. I want to stay, and I dislike the word authenticity because I am what I am what I
Mhm.
am, and I have to embrace that uniqueness. And I love the fact that you just said
Yeah.
that because you're not adapting. You have a unique voice and a unique message and a powerful presence, and that could be adapted to even subconsciously, which we know 95% of
Yep.
everything is. You could start adapting to be a little bit more
It's the truth.
digestible and a little bit more malleable. And I love the fact that you don't subscribe to that at all. You're just like,
I don't. And I
yeah,
mean, but I even partnered on a show with our friend David Meltzer that you had
yeah,
referenced earlier. I
yeah.
I had a co-hosted show that I ran with him for 2.5 years, once a week for 45 minutes. It's that simple, right? I didn't watch his content. I wasn't listening to other things afterwards, but just because of proximity, I spent 45 minutes with him a week without fail, no missed weeks in
Mm.
2.5 years. And in that time, what I would notice is vocabulary, speaking cadences, comments and things that I would say, ways I would answer questions would
Ah,
in little moments remind me of him. And that wasn't what I was trying to do.
so the
Right. And it's not
adaption.
to discredit him because, again, it's not about me learning new things or
Yeah,
that I believe that what I'm saying is better than anybody else. But what
yeah.
I do know is we all teach some version of the same universal truths.
Oh, absolutely.
What makes us unique is our packaging and our language and our experiences that make it accessible or relatable to others. And if I'm stealing from you, unconsciously or consciously, or from Meltzer or from anybody else,
Yeah,
then what am I doing? I'm diluting my uniqueness and I'm blending into the crowd. Makes me less impactful, less unique, less clear in who I am. But that's also the reasons
yeah,
that I was able to challenge Brad Lee on his own show in a way that nobody had ever witnessed, both interviews, and they were like, I've never seen anybody handle Brad this way. Why? Because
yeah,
I like Brad. I love Brad, but he's a
yeah,
fucking human, just like the
yeah.
rest of us. And if he's going to be a prick and poke at me on his show because he wants to and he's good at it, and I love him to death, and I've said this to his face,
Yeah,
well, cool, dude. I'm going to poke right the fuck back.
yeah,
Right. And
yeah,
it's not about having to win or protect, but it's about surfacing what's real and being able to stand confidently enough in who I am that I don't give a fuck who I'm talking
yeah,
to, what platform I'm on. You're going to get the real, raw version of me,
yeah.
whether you like it or not.
Yeah. I love that because I look at it as showing up at a level, and we can use the word authenticity, but showing up without the filters of having to navigate, and hopefully they like me. Hopefully they'll accept. I think that the world needs more than ever. I think people are exhausted with trying to
Oh, they
figure it
are.
out. I couldn't possibly pay attention to someone that isn't speaking the truth. And as an intuitive, I
Mhm.
instantly know it. I'm like, I have no
Uh-huh.
time for this. And I think at 61, I've got no time at all. I mean, it's like tick, tick, tick. I can kind of hear that, even though I
Mhm.
certainly don't feel it. I know that where I'm going to spend my time is going to pick and choose and ground myself into the truth, whether I like it or not, because
Yeah.
it's the only thing that's going to move me forward.
Yeah.
You
Do
know?
I have permission to reflect something back to you, Dana?
Oh, absolutely.
Even the
We got permission to
language
do everything today.
specificity of saying I don't have the time or I don't have enough time. What's interesting is there's even a scarcity component that's connected to that in your own
Yeah.
energy and your own level
Even
of
when I said it,
communication.
I felt it.
And it's not what you meant, and I know
Yeah.
that, but like
Yeah.
even the patterns of our language that we utilize,
Yeah.
like here's the reality. You don't know how much time you have left.
Yeah. No.
61 or 40 or 20 or 80.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah. I could
So
recap
to
that and
suggest
say,
that you
I
don't
get,
have,
yeah.
you're more exclusive with your time. You're
Yeah.
more focused and you are more aligned and recognizing where your time and energy wants to be and needs to be deployed instead
Right.
of, I don't have enough time. There's a
Right.
totally different nuance. I have all the time in the world, but I
Yeah.
don't have all the time in the world for people who are going to waste it.
See, when you said that, I'm like, let's reflect on how much time I've wasted on
Bingo.
making people happy, on tolerating, on navigating, on okay, let's just use diplomacy here where I should have like been boom, game over, let's go for it. So yeah, my recap would be exactly that. It's not that I don't have enough time. It's just that how I'm going to use this time, my discernment is and people are like, "I know who you are." Well, when did you meet me? A decade ago? A year ago? I'm not even who I was a week ago. You
Bingo.
know, it's I think we metabolize very quickly if we want to. We get
I
to
completely
choose.
agree.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I think that what I love about you is that you decide and you're so quick. You are very quick-witted, which I love, but you just metabolize so quickly all the information and you kick it back out in raw and real form. It's not like I'm
Thank
going to
you.
sit here and chew on this and let me think about that and get back to you with a educated answer. No, what you just spoke at me was so truthful. It's like, oh yeah, I caught it after I said it, and I'm like, hope nobody picks up on that. Boom, you picked up on it like that, and I love that. I love that.
Thank
So
you.
tell how you show up in the world. Your voice is amplified, your truth is amplified. What do you want to amplify now, in the here and now? What do you want people to hear? What do you want them to know? Because I know that you're grounded in love, humanity, expansion. What do we need to know out here in the world today that's going to evolve us? I know that's a big loaded question, probably two part, but I know you got it.
It is a big question. And I could take it multiple different directions because I don't think that there is a singular answer.
No.
Um, However, in the vein of even what we're speaking about, what do I do in the most simplistic sense in the world? I
Mhm.
help people and organizations compress time to clarity, connection, and amplified impact.
And what does that look
Now,
like? Let's slow down around that. You
yep.
compress time. We talk about time is what everybody wants is more time. We talk about time jumping. We talk about all kinds of linear. What does that look like in when you say that? How do you teach that?
So there's a lot of ways, but in the most simplistic way, what do? I want to help people both in my ability to reflect it back and
Mhm.
secondly in their ability to learn the skill set, which is to identify and remove the waste that they may not even know exists within. Now,
Yeah.
the waste can show up in here, right? It can show up within our business, within our systems, within our
Yeah.
financials, within our operations. But what is waste? Wasted time, wasted energy, and wasted money.
Yeah.
And in most cases, right, waste is directly tied to what I call the trash from people's past, whether they want to
Mm.
admit it or not. Now, what is the trash from people's past? It is the emotional triggers, behavioral patterns, and environmental conditions that create a set of beliefs intellectually and emotionally and create an associated set of cellular memory
Yeah.
that activate in moments in our lives only further validate until we decide to get off that same runway. Right?
Mhm.
Now, the biggest thing about the trash from people's past that I want them to understand is that the trash from your past is not your fault. But it does become your responsibility once you become aware of it, or you start burying others in yours. But the
Mhm.
biggest limitation to opportunity and growth is when shame and blame are present within ourselves,
I was
within
just
each
gonna
other, in
say, how do you
relation,
think
or within
yeah.
our businesses. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think people, and you just nailed it, and I wrote it down as, what shows up the most? And I believe shame is the biggest obstacle because people hide behind the shame. They don't want to show. And I mean, let's face it, I hid behind my legs for a long time because if I
Yeah.
addressed the legs, I had to address the medication, I had to address the addiction, I had to address the illness,
Yep.
and I had to address the pain that I
Yep.
created by that.
But shame is the ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing because it also
Yeah.
presents itself as about 50 other emotions, right? And people don't
Mm.
really understand shame, nor the full dynamic of shame, or the full
Yeah.
impact of shame, right? So what is the spectrum of shame? Shame can exist in I'm not worthy and I'm not good enough,
Yeah.
right? I've been there in moments, but that's not been my predominant narrative, which is why shame
No.
wasn't something I was aware I had for over 20 years,
Mm.
right? But once that
Interesting.
shot got shut down and I showed up in the arena, I'm ready to go to battle. It's who the fuck do you think you are? Who do you think you
Mm.
are to live big? Who do you think you are to be a coach? Who do you think you are to build businesses? Who do you think you are to print money? Who do you think you are to speak your truth? Who do you think you are to find and do healing? Right?
Mm.
It's all of those things that everything major I ever did in my life, I felt the need to apologize for.
Did you
But to the
find that
point
there
of
was a
should,
predominant voice that came in that moment? Did you feel that it wasn't your voice, Brian, that it was someone else's that you were listening
it
to?
was situational, but it was rarely my voice.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, but even to the point of utilizing the word should, like we talked about earlier. Should is a
Mm.
shame-based word and implies whoever you are, whatever you're doing, it's not good enough. So the second people wake up in the morning and say, man, I should have gotten up earlier. Man, I shouldn't have eaten so late last night. I should have worked out yesterday. Man, I should have
Mm.
taught that conversation. We're immediately putting our energy and our frequency into the shame state. So if you look at David Hawkins, who mapped the human frequency
Yeah.
scale from 0 to
Love
700,
him.
shame is the lowest registerable frequency at 20.
I know.
The lowest registerable frequency on the scale.
Yeah.
90% of the world are stuck between anger and fear, which is 100 to 150. Courage is about 200. Self-actualization is about 700. But what I'm
I
trying to
love that you're
suggest is
illuminating the pyramid because
the
it's so
second we're,
relevant.
but the second we say even the word should, or the
Yeah.
second we exist in a moment of shame and blame, we lower our frequency, growth and opportunity go out the window.
How can they
Right? And
flip that?
why?
So if they catch it and say, "Oh, I should," oh wait, whoa, 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 and they catch it. They're in that moment of catching it. How could they flip that? Because it's the
I
same
have
side of
yet
the
to find
coin.
a situation that you cannot replace the word should with either could or would. What could I have done differently if I knew something different? What would I do differently now that I know what I know? You can literally change the language and it changes the frequency simultaneously. Should is retroactive. It's not, I mean,
Yeah.
it's objective and judgmental, right? Whereas could and would are future focused, non-objective and non-judgmental. And so it allows us
Mhm.
to like really be able to like have clarity in those moments. But the other side of this is that's more important is other than even just the word choice, which is one of the beginning patterns. If
Mhm.
we can understand what we all seek and desire and what's actually disconnecting us from who we are and what we want, it's where most freedom lies. How do I compress time for people? How do we identify the waste? It's also to ultimately come down to this. So what do we all seek and desire? There's four things. We all want to feel safe. We all want to feel protected, and those are not the same thing. We all want to feel seen and understood, and we all want to feel connected at the deepest level, right? Now,
Mhm.
here's the ironic part. We do not get all four of these things. We don't get safe and protected unless we are seen and understood and connected. Seen and understood and connected are the things we want most. We don't get them unless we feel safe and protected. So we
Yeah.
don't get all four things unless we actually get all four things or we open ourselves to get all four things. So what happens the second you walk into an environment that you don't feel seen, understood, connected, protected, safe? You protect yourself, right?
Yeah.
So imagine a 35-gallon black trash bag, unfold it flat. Don't put air in it like you're going to put it in the can. Just hold it up flat in front of your face. This is now your
Mhm.
armor. You called it a filter a minute ago. Armor, filter, protection, whatever we want to call it, right? So
Mhm.
now the question is, how could you properly expect anybody, your spouse, your kids, your clients, your family, the people you care about, to see who you are, what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, your heart, your intent, your soul, your desires, your boundaries, your value, your worth, delivered through this opaque force field? And that's assuming that they're not carrying their own that's going to further dilute the message. So the
Which they
second
are.
you walk into a networking event and everybody wants something from you instead of for you and starts handing out your business cards and your wall starts to go up, your armor's up. It could be going back to your family's house for the holidays and your mom, your aunt, and your grandma all look at you a certain way. And 2 weeks out, you're like planning, how do I avoid this? Where do I stay? What do I do? You're already in a state of armor. But here's the reality. The second you protect yourself, you guarantee you will disconnect yourself from the two things you want most, which is to be seen and understood and connected at the deepest level. The second you protect yourself, you guarantee you will disconnect yourself from who you are and what you want,
Mm.
period. And so what we teach is this concept of a protector and a connector.
Yeah.
It's the ability to be the thermostat, not the thermometer in any room, to be able to walk in
Yes.
anywhere and know that I myself can lower my armor and I can layer a layer of protection around the entire environment I'm in so I can facilitate that everybody gets all four things that they want. But what's required to do that? Well, we have to know when we're in a state of armor. And there's two ways to drop that armor. The first and foremost is we can do it with a choice and a decision fabricated in a moment. It's possible, takes way more energy, and it's not sustainable.
Mm.
The second is to actually do the work to identify and remove the trash from the past that's causing you the need to protect in the first place, right? So that we can get ourselves to what I call the strong spine and the soft front. What's a strong spine? It's I've done the work to know who I am, what I'm willing to do, what I'm not willing to do, my heart, my intent, my soul, my desires, my boundaries, my value, my worth, so that I can be unwavering in any environment. Have you seen the movie 8 Mile, Dana?
Yes.
You know that last rap battle when Eminem's like, I did grow up from across the tracks. My buddy Bob did shoot himself. This, that, the other thing. And then at the end, he drops the mic and he's like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
See, the second you can get yourself to a place where you have nothing to justify, protect, or defend about yourself, you are free. And you are guaranteed to spend less time and energy in the interference as long as you can allow yourself to know when you trigger into that state. I know we'll talk further about it, but to the whole point of why do people listen to me? Because I'm open, I'm transparent, I'm real. I don't live in a protected state, which means there's no deviation between who I am and who you're receiving.
Yeah.
People used to think I was arrogant, an asshole, totally right off the charts. Well, why? Because I have a big fucking energy. And I have a big fucking presence.
And you're owning
those two
it.
things,
you're
those two
owning it.
things delivered through armor are confusing as fuck for people.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to mention, there's so many people that are terrified of vulnerability. If I do that, then there's this. And I'm like, well, what kind of round robin is that? But what do you think about the people that are listening right now and saying that's not possible? Because we all know the shadow work. We could talk. They're hiding. They're hiding because if you knew this about me, you wouldn't love me. I mean, if you knew that, you wouldn't like me. If you knew this, I wouldn't get the job. What about the people that are navigating? It's such, we both know it's such a weight, and there's so much freedom just to put it all out there and say, hey, this is the deal. This is who I am. Love me, not my. As you know, my book came out last month. I can't even tell you. And then I went off to Europe for a month. I didn't want to stay connected to what people said, which was, "Holy shit, I didn't know that about you. That doesn't look like your life. Are those your legs?" I sat with it and I thought I put everything out there. They either love me, they don't love me, but who needs that story? It will reach. Who judges me? I'm not interested in anyway. But for the people that are listening and they're like, I don't know if I can be that vulnerable. What do you have to say to them?
Most people only believe what they can see or what they've experienced themselves. And so if you are struggling to view this as possibility, just look around you. And there are people who believe that you cannot reverse the negative effects of anger in a life. There are people who believe that you cannot recover from 10 or 15 years of a damaging relationship in a marriage and find a way to come back to intimacy and connection. There are people who believed I would never use my left arm. There are people who believed I'd never pick up my children with both arms. There are people who still cannot wrap their mind around how I do certain things that I do today. But I've known no other way. And so what I know is that a lot of the stuff that I chose to not believe or was unconscious to in believing was simply because of a lack of perspective, experience, or having a model to show me. And so sometimes I had to create it my own. Sometimes I had to believe even when there wasn't a model, because if I believed and I worked and I was clear, this isn't just a bullshit mindset methodology. That's not what I'm saying. But like actually committed to like what could be. The biggest thing that I think most people struggle with is they exist in this place in being stuck, not being able to be vulnerable, which by the way, the only time waste exists in our life is when we're stuck.
Yeah.
And so
I always say we're never
powerful,
stuck. I'm like quoted a zillion times out there saying we're never stuck. Our thoughts and our situation may feel stuck, but
Yeah,
we're never
I
stuck.
hear that, and I know what
What
you
do you
mean
think
by
about
that,
that?
and I accept that. I do believe that people get stuck, and it's because they get stuck in their heart, their head, their personal development,
Mm.
the way energy moves through them. There are things that do get stuck. But the only time we get stuck in this world, ever, in any of those categories, is when we stop asking questions.
Ah. You know, you talked
And
about the
so,
lowest vibration being shame, and we know the highest vibration is being gratitude. Where does gratitude fit in all this for you? Do you teach gratitude? Do you practice gratitude? Does it come into your daily practices?
absolutely, but I would tell you that it's not through the same levels of buzzwords like we hear out in the
Yeah,
world.
well, we know the buzzwords right now are gratitude,
Yeah.
authenticity. I mean, I know. But tell me about your relationship with that high vibrational. I'm gonna say for me, gratitude, I don't like the word, is connectiveness. I think of it as more connected to
Hmm.
source for me. Even that's a buzzword. But that's what people are gonna hear. How do you not spiritually bypass, but you understand where you're vibrating and what it takes to evolve through these energies. And let's face
Yep.
it, we're full of these energies. Like you said, our heart energy, our ego energy, our solar plexus, all of this is energy that we're storing and we need to move. How do you
Hmm.
move that energy through when, like you said, people get stuck? Energy
Yeah.
gets
Well,
stuck there.
I think there's a variety of ways to answer that question. I'm going to answer the first part
Yeah.
around gratitude, and then I'm going to loop back to where I was going with the questions because I think that they're one and the same.
Brilliant.
Now, with gratitude, gratitude is not a thought.
Mm.
Gratitude is not writing something down on a piece of paper to say that you know you're grateful for something. You used a great word. It's connectedness. But where I look at it is its embodiment,
Yeah.
right? The truth of the matter is whether we're talking gratitude or we're talking low frequency energy or emotions, the lack of congruence
Yeah.
between our thoughts or our intellectual narratives or our head and our heart is where almost all the resistance shows
Mm.
up, right?
Mm.
And so what happens for most people in any capacity, they'll raise their level of awareness around something, they'll learn a new skill set, they'll learn a new understanding of self, and now they
Mm.
have an intellectual understanding of it, but their feeling, what shows up in their body, hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah.
Those two things don't align. Well, I know this. I've learned this. I've studied this. I know I'm grateful, but I don't feel grateful, right?
Yeah.
The lack of acknowledgement of what's happening in the body is where the disconnect is for any and all emotions. And there
Mhm.
are actually 40,000 cells in the heart. They're called sensory neurites. They're brain like cells that carry cellular memory. And
Mhm.
they've shown that whether it's through gratitude practices or through unpacking the patterns of your past alone, if all you do is go through the intellectual process of understanding and connecting these things, that you
Mhm.
will not experience gratitude and you will not reverse the patterns of your past because those 40,000 cells will not heal unless they embody the associated
Mhm.
emotions. The biggest issue for me to experience gratitude was that when I shut off physical pain when it exceeded my ability to cope at 7, I shut off mental pain, physical pain, and emotional pain for 25 years and didn't know it.
Mm.
At 32 years old was the first time I felt emotion in such a pure way that I realized that I was unconsciously but actively suppressing every single emotion I had ever felt. And the
Mm.
connect from the external
Yeah.
trigger or stimulus to feeling was that fast before it was in my head. There was no embodiment, there was no understanding, there was no
Mm.
way to correlate the two. So, how do I
Yeah.
practice gratitude? I'm not one of those that's like, well, write down your things you're grateful for 3 times a day, every single day, and you'll become grateful. No, that's a typical mindset and performance practice. Great, it works. And yes, if you find a way to transition it from thought into feeling, you'll get there and you'll have the connectedness that you described. But how
Mhm.
do we go about this? It comes back to the questions because why? The only time we're existing in a place of being stuck is when we stop asking questions. Why? Because questions create options and opportunities. With those
Mm.
options and opportunities, we have new potential choices. We can take new actions to create new change. And then we get the greatest gift on the other side of it, which is clarity. Clarity is not
Mhm.
something we develop on the front end. We can get as clear as we
Mhm.
can be on the front end, but absolute clarity only comes in two ways: challenge or confirmation, which only follow action and forward movement, right?
Mm.
The thing is like, how did I know the second that I felt emotion? Well, I started crying in a moment with my daughter, and I knew it was something I hadn't felt. And I had to ask a question.
Mm.
What am I feeling right now? What does this mean? What is it
Right.
pointing me towards? Which is when
Right.
I started to connect. Oh, geez, if I'm experiencing joy in this way that's bringing me to tears, and I've never experienced this otherwise, then every other emotion I'd ever felt was pale in comparison. Well, let me
Mm.
what's happening to my emotions? Where are they going? What's taking place? And I would just slow down. I'd feel something, ask another question. Can I pause for
Mm.
5 more seconds, embody this, understand what it means? Ask more questions. Why? Because I'm giving myself options and opportunities to create new pathways, to create new choices, to take new actions.
Create new
And I'm not
pathways.
saying just never
Yeah.
ending perpetual list of questions, but
Right.
here's the reality. There's a simple calibration that if everyone deployed through their whole lives and they'd be willing to be honest with themselves and ask questions following, would help you solve any issue in your life.
I'm like clapping above my head here. Yes,
The
because neural
question is
pathways,
this.
and yeah, I love that because
Are
I think that's like you just got. If I had like a key to the city, what you just said was huge.
the question is this. The universal question is this. Are my words, actions, and behaviors taking me closer to or further away from who
Yeah.
I am and what I want? Period.
How can they
Now,
recalibrate if they're not? What if they're caught in a story and they don't know they're caught in the story because we know 95% of subconscious, 65,000 thoughts a day, blah blah blah, all the statistics, and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I just keep doing it and attracting. And what do you have to say to those people that just do not have the awareness, but they want it? They want it. They're like, I want a new life. I want all those things, but I just don't know what I'm doing. What do you have to say to them?
it comes back to the questions again,
Yeah.
right? Why? Because if I don't know, ask. Ask of yourself, ask of others, ask and get information. And I'm not saying raise your level of awareness just to become more aware of all the ways you should be judging yourself, which was what most people do, but to become more aware in a way that can become future focused and objective so you can start to create forward movement, right? But no different than what I just said in my whole dynamic of understanding what was happening with my
Mhm,
emotion. The same
mhm.
things would be true in any different dynamic. But here's what I
Yeah.
was aware enough to understand, and I'll give an example on this. Okay. Now,
Mm,
one of the things that used to happen in my marriage is my shame and my anger would come out in my household. No one else would know that it
mm,
was me,
yeah.
but my wife did. She'd say something as simple as this, Dana. Hey, honey, what do you want to do with the kids this weekend? But
Mm,
my shame and my anger filter would cause me to hear it this way. Hey, honey, you've not done enough to be a good husband and father recently, so what are you going to do to make up for it this weekend? Well, shit, you better damn well fucking believe I'm going to protect the shit out of that. I'm a great husband and father. So what do? I rattle off the 10 things I've done in the last few days to show her I'm a good husband and father, not even what she asked,
yeah. She's like,
right?
"But aren't we gonna go to the Apple Festival? Do you wanna go?" Yeah, you're like, "Yeah, yeah." I love that
Now,
analogy that you just did, how you put the filter over it on what you heard and what she said and the communication and the
yep,
gap in between.
but she tried to tell me for 10 years that this pattern existed, and I wasn't ready to hear it.
No.
But I did have a moment of awareness, which was this. I'm about to lose everyone and everything in my life because of me. And if I don't slow down and ask more or different questions, it's pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah.
But I had to ask those questions. Where is this anger coming from? By the way, anger is not a primary emotion, it's a secondary emotion.
Mm.
It's big energy designed to push everyone and everything away. And it's typically sitting on top of fear, sadness, or shame,
Yeah.
right? And the
Yeah.
truth of the matter is no one else knew I was angry, but I also wasn't living congruently to own that. And so what could I do in that moment? Well, if the one person I love most in this world is telling me that I'm creating damage for her in a way that I have only ever intended to protect her, well, there's one critical lesson that I need to understand right now that I can't do anything with further until this, which is the world will never judge you based on your intent. The world is
Mm.
only ever going to judge you based on what your words, actions, and behaviors communicate, even if you're unconscious to what they're communicating.
Mm.
So if she's talking to me in this way, I don't know the answer yet. I don't know how I'm going to fix it. But what is the question I can ask? Well, do I react in this moment like I have 5,000 other times and guarantee that my marriage is over?
Yeah.
Or can I ask some different questions to better understand where she's coming from, to at least try to take her perspective as to what's generating this feeling and perception? And then I can determine what to do with it. So that's what I
Yeah.
did instead. I started to ask questions after 10 years of doing it,
Yeah.
understanding, and had to own the fact that I had anger. So once I was aware, I had to take ownership of it, which meant take total responsibility. And by the way, ownership, when there's damage, that means you create repair. So
Yeah.
what takes place here? Well, now I've guaranteed more wasted time, energy, and money to neutralize, diffuse, and repair damage that didn't even need to be created because I reacted to something she didn't even say.
Yeah.
And now I'm owning
Yeah.
out in the world, hey, I'm this angry person, but I'm setting up tools and people to hold me accountable when I myself can't be aware enough in my own body, which is what
Yeah.
most people have. So you've
Yeah.
got to have the courage and
Yeah.
desire to find and stand your truth. That's the answer to the question. For those that don't have awareness, you have to have the
Yeah.
courage and the desire to
Yeah.
find and walk through to get to your truth. And there's lots of questions, lots of framing, lots of tools I can
Yeah.
give you. But that's the brutal, honest piece, because if you don't have that, this work is not for the weary. It's not.
No.
It's hard.
I
It's
love that you
difficult.
illuminated that. I love that you illuminated that because I think that everything isn't always as it appears. People think I just like Glenda the Good Witch arrived here. I was a road rager. I mean,
Mhm,
I almost destroyed my family by rage and anger
mhm.
from shame, perfectionism, that lens, everything I heard is I wasn't good enough, not doing enough. I almost killed myself until that awakening and that word accountability. And I have to now I look at it as I just got back from a week in Barcelona with my 37-year-old daughter who's my first grandbaby. She's pregnant. Her hormones are growing crazy, but she's telling me who and what her experience was when she
I
was
love it.
10. And I've guaranteed to hold space for that.
Mhm.
But I'm exhausted. I've traveled. I'm walking the. I mean, I don't know if I can hold space anymore. And I started to get a little snippy, a little.
Yeah.
I wanted to shut it down. I was hurt. I'm like, no more. I've been accountable enough. And then I had to step back, Brian, and come back and say, I'm sorry. I love
Yep.
the Ho'oponopono prayer because it's so simple. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Please forgive
It's
me.
true.
I didn't hold enough space. I hear you, but I had to relive it all over again. And sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes the shame is like, I have three grown daughters. For the rest of my life, am I going to have to be? Yes. For the rest of my
Yep.
life, I'm going to be accountable for what has taken place. And I love the fact you said that. And it's not too late. It is not
But
too
it
late.
gets easier the more you do it, and it isn't too
Yes.
late. And here's a dynamic of
Yeah.
timeline for to land that point for people. I
Yeah.
like to say today, my wife and I have been together for 19 years. We
Love
hid
that.
from each other
Congratulations.
unconsciously with good
Congratulations on
intent.
that.
Thank you. We hid from each other unconsciously, but with good intent, and we loved each other for 14 of those years.
Yeah.
And my wife has only felt completely emotionally safe with me for 3. It's
Mm.
also not a coincidence we have the best relationship, the deepest communication, the deepest connection, the deepest intimacy, and I don't just mean that sexually. We've reversed
Yeah.
generational patterns in the home. My kids don't even remember having an angry father anymore. And was it absolutely easy? We just decided to flip the switch and it happened? No. It was 18 to 36 months of very intentional and
I was going to say
difficult reprogramming.
very
Very intentional
intentional
and difficult
devotion.
reprogramming because it is that granular. I mean, it's that deep. It's cellular and you feel it so
It's
viscerally in those
cellular.
moments.
Yeah.
And so that's ultimately what I will tell people though is another set of questions because when you ask people, do you know what it's like to feel triggered?
Mhm.
Almost everybody says yes. And it doesn't matter what the emotion is. Triggered
Yeah.
into happiness, joy, fear, scarcity, it doesn't matter. Almost everybody when they have a stimulus that transitions their state instantly, they know. So then I
Yeah.
ask, how quickly do you know? Oh, almost instantly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Because if you can at least tune into that pattern and pay attention to it, you're a step ahead. So
Yeah.
then the question becomes if you do go into a reactive, low frequency or negative emotion, notice it and pause immediately and ask yourself these 3 questions. The
Mm.
first is what I'm reacting to right now due to what's right in front of me or the trash from my past? Here's a little hint and secret 99% of the time, it's the second.
Yeah.
Okay. The
I was just gonna
second
ask
question,
you
if you,
what they could be aware of because
yeah,
we've just pulled that we were not intentionally going here, but it's so organic, this conversation, but we just pulled the curtain back on about 99.9% of the world out there
bingo.
like you said, everyone, I'm triggered and
Yep.
reacts. And I love the fact you're giving these tools. It's like it never is about that current moment.
Yeah.
It's always the
100%.
secondary. Yeah.
So the second question after that, if you've not been able to separate and release and get back into the present moment is, what am I protecting right now? Because if you can identify the root of what you're protecting, what you're defending, what you're justifying, you can usually remove it. What was I protecting in those moments with my wife? The fact that I'm a good husband and father, and who the fuck is she to challenge me on that?
Yeah.
Not what she said again, but that's what I heard, because that was an identity that I hold very true. And because I've been challenged or misbelieved or not understood in so many situations, well, of course I'm going to fight for that. Right. But the second I can realize she's not challenging that, I don't need to protect it. I can lower my armor. And the third question, if those two have not separated, it is, am I safe right now? Am I safe mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally?
Yeah.
And if you can look around, look down, see where your feet are, and you can answer yes to that, then the only gap between you being seen and heard for who you are in congruence to your intent and what your words, actions, and behaviors are communicating, and inverse to whoever you're communicating with, is your decision in that moment to pause, take a breath, and open. Because the second you can drop the armor is the second that growth, opportunity, potential, and all of the freedoms you've desired for your life exist just on the other side.
Right. Brilliant. Brilliant. I think people should listen to this podcast on repeat. The minute you finish listening to it, listen to it again, because we know this is not a one and done.
I still do it. I still do it.
Well, look what just happened to me in Barcelona. I mean, I'm like, I just
teach it, and yet, but that's the point, right? But here's the difference that you understand and I know. I used to spend months and years in that low frequency energy and emotion.
Oh yeah.
All of my life.
Without any knowledge, that we were vibrating at that
100%,
level.
100%, not even a clue, but performing at a high level, making money, doing all the things the world told me to do,
records.
Performing, right?
Yeah.
But then I started to do the work, and then it was weeks and months I was spending the energy. And then it was days and weeks. And then it was hours and days. And then it was minutes and hours. And today, if I get triggered, more often than not, it doesn't matter what the stimulus is. I can fall into ego-based consciousness. I can be defensive of something. I can feel the need to protect. Most of the time now, it's only minutes and moments, which means I'm not existing in that place of waste. I'm existing in presence. I'm existing in clarity. I'm not existing in the interference, resistance, and armor stage because I've allowed myself to remove it and drop it. But acknowledge that there is no final destination, Dana.
Oh, I love that you said that, because
and we're never going to fully outrun these. It's just we spend less time in it, right?
Exactly. That is, if there was a summary, it's like it happens, you spend less time there, you recover, but we know that it's never over. What we did organically, everything that happened in your life is still stored there. It's just how you choose to process and show up and digest it and connect, and what kind of quality of life do you want?
Bingo.
Yeah, I could have ruined Barcelona. I mean, I opened my suitcase. I was robbed. Everything was stolen. I was devastated. She's hormonal. She's pregnant. She's exhausted. I'm exhausted. And then she said something. I don't even remember, but boom, trigger.
But you just described every relationship.
Exactly.
In this world.
Trigger. And then, what do you mean by that? We're hungry. We're starving. We've been on planes. It wasn't what we wanted. And then but it's how long I stayed there. Before, I'd have destroyed the whole trip. You know how many holidays I destroyed, Mother's Days I destroyed, Christmases I destroyed by perfection, all of it. Anything could have hit me wrong. It's not what you wanted. Well, I mean, it could have been anything.
Yeah.
But it was, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I didn't mean to. Hey, let's close our suitcases. Let's go get something to eat. And it was amazing that it just came organically, because I think the more we do it, the easier it gets.
I apologize to at least one person in my house probably every day.
I love that. I love that.
Right? Like for something. And it could be meaningless, honestly, in the scheme of things. But at this point, I'm like, if I am doing anything that I'm out of congruence with what I intend or what I would want to intend in my best, I communicate about it. And
I love that,
our
Brian.
kids do the same thing. And we are communicating this way. And do we do it perfectly? No. Do we miss it sometimes? Yes. Are we far from fucking perfect? Absolutely. But the fact is we do it more often than we don't, right? Yeah. And we're trying to always make sure that we're getting clarity, because when we're clear, we're free.
Yeah. I love the fact that you're holding space for that, that there is no perfection. I just keep moving quicker and quicker through and holding space and living this life, this imperfect life that isn't chaotic anymore, that's full of love and connection, and that
Yeah.
includes forgiveness, and that includes addressing that this happened, but I don't need to carry all those suitcases around anymore. It's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, did it, done, sorry, what's next? And it doesn't
And
mean that we should address that and I think that you could probably expand a little bit on this. The people that say they're sorry all the time and I have a girlfriend says she's sorry to me all the time, but her actions are constantly violating and repeating. What do you say to the people that aren't there's no growth, they aren't learning, they're saying they're sorry and they reset, and I'm like, not going to work for me. What about that? Because people might say, well, I say I'm sorry too, but nothing changes. What about that?
look,
Different side of that coin.
those people either love me or hate me exactly, because I either help snap them out of it, or I'm such an authentic, reflective mirror to them that they can't do it. But sorry is a frequency that I don't necessarily believe in either. Now, what do I mean by this? I just told you I
Yeah.
apologize to somebody in my family almost every single day.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I apologize for things that I create damage, whether or not I'm aware that I created damage.
Mm.
I do not apologize for things that are, for example, you saw it when I first arrived today. I didn't apologize to you for being 2 minutes late. I said, thank you for your patience for being 2 minutes late. Why? Because I'm congruent and knew that if I could have been here exactly on time, I would have been. And if
Absolutely.
you are not gracious enough to allow the timing is always perfect when we allow it, then maybe you and I aren't going to jive, and that's totally cool with me. But
Yeah.
like, it's one of those things of like, I stopped apologizing for being late 10 years ago, right?
Mm.
Most of the time when I see people saying, I'm sorry, one of the biggest things, whether it's should or sorry, is to just get them aware that they're even saying that frequently, because that's the first
Mm.
step. You may not be ready to fix it yet. They may not have enough understanding to do it. But if all I can do is say, and I don't have to say it as a statement, hey, are you aware of how often you apologize for things?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we all have that person in our life. And I think our listeners as well, someone that shows up as, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, do you have any idea? What are you sorry for?
But I also don't tell them often. I do two things, right? I either will ask, hey, do I have permission to provide some feedback to you? Why?
Oh,
Because
I love
feedback is
that
permission
permission part.
based, right?
I kind of
Feedback's
I
permission
bypass
based.
that sometimes. I'm like,
Yeah.
I got to ask for permission a little bit more because I'm like, boom, I like dive in like,
Or the second is, I won't make a statement. I will ask a question, right?
mm,
Because again, it's still then permission based on whether or not they want to answer.
yeah,
But what am I doing? I'm inquiring, I'm not stating. Why do people get
yeah,
triggered and put their walls up most often? Because when someone says something definitive, whether it
very,
resonates or not, they immediately don't want to accept it.
yeah.
People are
They
like,
feel
Brian, how do
attacked.
you get people to be so open to the feedback you give to them? Well, they give me permission to give them feedback before I ever do. What do you mean? I almost ask every single person, well, why? Well, even if they have no idea what I'm doing, the second I ask if I have permission and they say yes, energetically, emotionally, and intellectually, they open.
Yeah.
Even if
I'm
they don't
calling you
realize they're
every
doing
week
it.
and I'm going to say, Brian, give me feedback for the week. And you're going to be, okay, Jana, da, 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 da. And I'm going to be completely open. Like, oh my God, that's gold. That's gold because you're very
Thank you.
accurate. Well, you see
Thank you.
things very clearly because the filters, you have removed so many filters that so many people have. And, it's like, I want to sing that song. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. We won't, I promise people I won't sing, but I want to because that's what dropped in.
I can see clearly now. I don't even see, that's as much singing as
The
you're gonna get from me.
rain is gone.
See,
Yeah,
you finished it. There we go.
there we go.
Now you're singing. Now you're being vulnerable. Now we're good. Let's go.
Yeah, well, you know what? I sing in my stories, but it's like a selective few that get the dancing and the singing. I'm like, hey, you want to watch me sing and dance? You're gonna go in my stories,
I
and,
got
and
you.
and it's gone in 24 hours, and it's like people are like, oh, you're so vulnerable, and I'm like, I could take that as an offense, but I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I just doing me. Yeah, I never claimed to be a singer and dancer and any of those things. Okay, what are we going to leave the people with today? What are we going to leave them? We've given them so much. What shall we leave them with today? And two things, twofold here. I always love my twofold questions. What feels like love in your life right now? And we'll talk about where people can find you stuff. But what feels like love, and what should we leave them with? What is like not an epiphany, maybe a life lesson? What do you think right now, organically, intuitively, people need to know right now?
What feels like love to me right now is I'm pausing because I'm actually feeling it. Um,
Mm.
what feels like love to me right now is the commitment to consistent forward movement, growth, and connection that I am experiencing with my wife and with my
Mm.
children right now.
Mm. I can feel that today.
I can genuinely tell you that even if my wife and I had an argument a week ago or yesterday, that we are in the best place in our marriage that we've ever been, and yet simultaneously more detached to what that outcome is than we've ever been.
She needs to hear this podcast. I'm gonna find her somewhere and send this to her because she needs to hear the amount of love and connection. I mean, there is so much evolution here in what you're saying, and so many people think they've done so much damage that they can't recover, and and you not only recovered, it's like on a cellular level you rebuilt something and cherish it and you share it, you don't hide it, which is brilliant. And I think
Thank you.
it just elevates the love and
Thank you.
connection, and I think it gives people hope that, I have fucked up and I can't fix it,
Yeah.
but I can be accountable and I can take these tools and every day I can show up and do better.
Yep.
I always say when we know better we do better. Our younger selves, we didn't know better. But when
Yep.
we know better, we do better. And we must forgive those versions of ourselves that didn't know.
Yep.
And I think it doesn't matter whether other people forgive us, but we must start with that self-forgiveness. I love that
I
you've done
agree.
this.
Yeah. And again, it's every day. I mean, my wife and I do this every single day. But when I said my wife and my kids with particular reason, um, I am a phenomenal husband and father, and I can say that with absolute conviction and no ego. But what I can also say is that for all the things that I know we're doing right with our children,
Mhm.
inevitably and unconsciously, we are fucking them up in some way. However, the fundamental difference between what I know is inevitably happening as their parent today, that we
Mhm.
won't know for 10, 15, or 20 more years
Oh no,
as
I've
it
got them in their
develops and
30s.
shows
Trust
up,
me. Yeah, every stage it's a different level of.
but they will always be able to talk to us, and they
Yeah.
choose to talk to us, and
Mm.
they trust us, and who they are is still
Mm.
developing. But it's also what I can say that I believe truly in our household is our kids are never going to have to rediscover who they are.
Mm.
They're only going to continue to expand upon it. And so love to me feels like how I witness the two of them show up in the world, how I
Mm.
see them so confidently love themselves, advocate for themselves, know that there's unconditional love for themselves and in the world, and how those skills then transfer to their ability to unconditionally love others, know others, and advocate for others. And they do that at 10 and
Mm.
11 in ways
I
that
was just gonna
I
say, what
don't
age
see
are
many
they?
adults even be
10
able
and
to do that.
11. Wow.
And so yeah, I thank you for the grace and a longer, more freestyle thought on that. But to come back to the second part of the question, what do I intuitively feel that the world needs to hear right now? We are not as different as the world is trying to make us believe.
Mm.
We are not as divided as the world wants us to believe. And there is nothing fundamentally wrong with any of you,
Mm.
right? And so, what do I think we need to hear? I think that we need to recognize and figure out the ways to come back to love as a foundational approach in
Mm.
every interaction we have. I think we need to find ways to have discernment and civil discourse to be able to communicate with people openly and honestly and to ask questions of curiosity versus having to stand in some camp because we think it's going to keep us safe.
Right.
The world wants you to believe that everything is black and white. But what I'm going to tell you is that though the world exists in contrast, there's black and white in everything. Contrast is also what gives us depth. It's what gives us structure. And if you look at imagery and art and tattoos, it's the grays that bring the blacks and the whites to life. The gift is almost always in the gray area. And so
Mm.
wherever you can recognize this, you will have more freedom on the other side. And the last piece to this is to have all of this come to fruition. Your presence is your present because you are the gift. And if
Mm.
you can recognize that and own that in any given moment, in any given interaction, all it requires of you is to show up as who you are,
Mm.
without armor, without protection. And everything you've ever wanted is just on the other side of the choice to do so.
Oh, Brian Bogert, this has been an illuminating conversation. I had signs to reach out to you. I had signs when I walked in my office today, as I showed you. It was so guided. The vibration was, I could feel it buzzing in my ears, but that's just who I am. And I knew that it would be brilliant. And it's what a brilliant conversation. I hope that it helps so many people find their way home to themselves. And I think that you not only illuminated it, you gave steps. And I'm so grateful for this conversation and you. I'm so grateful that I found you, that we're connected. I'm certain I'll be saying, asking you questions and saying, Dana, 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 Dana. And but you're a gift to the world and I appreciate you. How can people find you? Where do you hang
Mhm.
out? Is it Instagram? Let's talk where people
Yep.
can, and what do you have going on?
Yep. First and foremost, Dana, I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for building a platform for us to have this dialogue and for me to pour some good into the world. It's never lost
Welcome.
on me that our dialogue and the assets that get produced from it wouldn't exist without your investment
Mm.
in doing this. And so thank you.
Thank you.
Second, if you're on social media, I'm at Bogert Brian on all channels, including YouTube. I'm pretty much across most channels other than TikTok. I'm not really there active or much. And for no reason other than I can only do so much and I can't be everywhere always. If you're online, I'm brianbogert.com. What am I up to? Man, I don't fit inside a container. We've got solutions for individuals. We've got masterminds that we run for startup entrepreneurs. I work with well-seasoned entrepreneurs with $250 million plus organizations, the CEOs, the leadership teams. I speak, I coach. At the end of the day, I like to, again, figure out the best and most clear path to help compress time for people to clarity, connection, and
Right.
amplified impact. So whether that's through our AI products, our AI consulting and solutions, our custom build outs, the human work I do, our retreats, or any of the above, the point is
Yeah.
I've got a pathway, not because I serve everybody, but I have pathways for multiple different people within our world. And on our impact of reaching over 1 billion lives as quickly as we can, what I know is that 99.9% of you will never pay me a dollar, and you will probably never utilize any of our services directly. But I believe that
Mm.
move people, and that billion life impact comes through what I call collective impact. So if you heard anything today that resonated, that moved you, you hear anything from Dana's show or any of the interviews with any of the brilliant people that she brings in, if you feel something, do something with it. Move it through the world, move it through your life, move it into somebody else's life. Because
Mm.
move people is the fastest path to the collective impact and creating the world that I know that we all can and want to live in.
I love that you articulated that. I mean, that moved me. I mean, I may just like coin that because I loved it so much. I was looking down at the last thing I had, and your name is it's a quote by you. It says, "When you eliminate waste, you can operate at a speed without the need to hurry." And I think for anyone that wants to hurry through this, go back, re-listen, listen again, because I think this is life changing. I'm grateful for you for showing up. We'll have all the links to your website, all the ways people can connect. And Brian, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A million times thank you because you have actually shifted me today. And it takes a lot to shift my belief system and what I'm doing I mean, I can feel the linear shift. It's like, ooh, it was like a cha-ching. And I love it when I hear that because it doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen very often, and I'm always open to it. So I'm grateful for you. Keep doing what you're doing. The world needs you. And until next time, thank you everyone for tapping in, listening. Make sure that you download this. Follow Brian. I'll have all the links. And until next time, stay safe, stay open, stay connected, and so much love to you all.